The stars burned cold and bright in the silent vacuum of the Sector 7 border region. It was a quiet place, far from the busy trade routes of the galaxy. Here, the only things moving were rocks and ice. But today, the silence was broken. The massive shape of the Imperial Glory moved through the darkness. It was a beautiful ship, painted in the gold and white colors of the Empire. It was the strongest ship in this part of space, or so the crew thought. Inside the ship, the bridge was calm. Soft lights blinked on many screens. Officers in clean uniforms sat at their stations. Commander Alex stood near the front window, looking out at the stars. He was a tall man with short hair. He felt proud. The Empire had ruled for a long time. Their technology was better than anyone else's. They had never lost a battle in this region. Alex sipped his hot drink and felt safe. Nothing could hurt the Imperial Glory. Nothing could challenge the Empire. "Status report," Alex said. His voice was calm. He did not really need to ask. Everything was always fine. Lieutenant Mike looked up from his screen. Mike was in charge of the sensors. He was a young man, smart and quick. "All systems are green, Commander," Mike said. "Shields are at 100%. Weapons are online. We are scanning the area, but there is nothing out there, just empty space." Alex nodded. "Good. Keep scanning. We don't want any surprises." Ensign Sarah sat at the communication station. She was listening to the background noise of space, looking for signals from other ships. "No radio traffic, sir," she said. "No signals from anyone. We are alone." Alex smiled. It was a boring patrol, but boring was good. Boring meant safe. He walked around the bridge, looking at the different screens. The crew worked well together. They were professionals. They believed in the Empire. They believed they were the masters of this galaxy. Then, the quiet moment ended. "Commander," Mike said. His voice sounded strange. It was not calm anymore. Alex turned around. "What is it, Lieutenant?" Mike tapped his screen, then tapped it again. He looked confused. "I am not sure, sir. The sensors picked up a gravity spike. It was very fast. Something just dropped out of hyperspace." "Dropped out?" Alex walked back to the main window. "Who is it? Is it a traitor? A lost ship?" "I am trying to get a visual," Mike said. His fingers moved fast over his keyboard. "The computer is taking a long time to process the image. It is strange." Suddenly, the main screen in the front of the bridge changed. The image of the stars was replaced by a picture of the object in front of them. The bridge went very quiet. Everyone stopped working and looked at the screen. Alex stared. He did not understand what he was seeing. It was a ship. It had to be a ship. But it looked wrong. It did not look like the smooth, elegant ships of the Empire. It did not look like the sleek ships of their enemies. This ship was dark. It was black as the void around it. It looked like a block with sharp angles and rough edges. It looked ugly. It looked primitive. "It looks like a rock," Sarah said, breaking the silence. "It is huge," Mike whispered. "Size check? It is bigger than us, Commander. Much bigger." Alex felt a small worry in his stomach. The Imperial Glory was a dreadnought. It was a giant. But this thing was larger. "Run the identification scan. Check the database. Is it a new design from the rebels?" "Scanning," Mike said. The computer hummed. A few seconds later, Mike shook his head. "No match. The computer has never seen a ship like this. The hull material is unknown. The engine signature is messy." "Is it a threat?" Alex asked. He looked at the energy readings. "I do not know, sir. It is not moving. It is just sitting there. But look at the energy levels." He put the numbers on a side screen. The graph showed a massive amount of energy, more than the Imperial Glory, more than any ship Alex had ever seen. "That cannot be right," Alex said. "A ship that ugly cannot have that much power." "I have checked 3 times, sir. The energy readings are real. They're off the charts." Alex watched the dark ship on the screen. It did not fire. It did not move. It just floated in the dark. It felt like it was watching them. He remembered old stories.
stories about a planet called Earth. The Empire had maps of a place called Sol, but it was far away in an uncontrolled sector. The stories said the humans there were weak. They fought with metal and fire. They did not have advanced shields. Could it be from Earth? Alex thought out loud. Earth? Sarah looked surprised. The humans? Sir, they are backwards. They use simple rockets. They could not build a ship that big. I know, Alex said, but maybe we were wrong. Open a channel. Let's talk to them. Channel open, Sarah said. This is Commander Alex of the Empire ship Imperial Glory. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. State your business. They waited. A minute passed, 2 minutes. No response, sir, Sarah said. They are not answering. Alex did not like being ignored. The Empire did not like being ignored. Try again. Use the wideband. Tell them to move or we will attack. Sarah sent the message. Again, the dark ship stayed silent. It was a ghost in the stars. Commander, Mike said. His voice sounded tight. It was not calm anymore. Alex turned around. What is it, Lieutenant? Mike tapped his screen, then tapped it again. He looked confused. I am not sure, sir. The sensors picked up a gravity spike. It was very fast. Something just dropped out of hyperspace. Dropped out? Alex walked back to the main window. Who is it? Is it a traitor? A lost ship? I am trying to get a visual, Mike said. His fingers moved fast over his keyboard. The computer is taking a long time to process the image. It is strange.
We have to show them who is in charge, Alex said. He stood straight. Target their main hull. Prepare to fire a warning shot. Use the forward plasma battery. Aye, sir, Mike said. Targeting systems locked. The Imperial Glory was a predator in the Sea of Stars. It turned its heavy guns toward the silent stranger. The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly as power went to the weapons. Fire, Alex ordered. 2 bright blue bolts of plasma shot out from the Imperial Glory. They moved fast, leaving a trail of light. They were aimed to hit the side of the dark ship, to scare them, to show them the power of the Empire. Everyone on the bridge watched the screen. The plasma bolts flew across the distance between the ships. They were about to hit the dark hull. 3 seconds to impact, Mike counted down. Alex waited for the explosion. He waited for the shields of the enemy ship to light up, or for the hull to burn. The plasma bolts hit the side of the dark ship. But there was no explosion. There was no fire. The bolts simply disappeared. They went into a thin layer of light right next to the dark hull. It was like a shield, but it was almost invisible. It absorbed the blue plasma energy completely. Sir, Mike yelled, the shots, they are gone. They didn't scratch it. Alex stared. What? That is impossible. Even a low-level shield blocks plasma. I am reading a shield signature now, sir, Mike said, his voice shaking a little. But it is not like ours. It is not a standard energy field. It is gravitational. It bent the space around the bolt and swallowed it. The dark ship sat there, untouched. It looked like it hadn't even noticed the attack. They didn't even move, Sarah said. They didn't even raise their shields until the shot hit. Alex felt the worry in his stomach grow bigger. This was not a backward human ship. This was something else, something advanced, something dangerous. Sir, Mike said again, the energy readings are spiking again. They are reacting to us. The dark ship began to turn slowly. It did not turn like a normal ship. It did not use thrusters. It just rotated in space, defying gravity. It was turning its front toward the Imperial Glory. Red alert, Alex shouted. The lights on the bridge turned red. A loud alarm began to sound. Shields up, full power to the front. Prepare to evasive maneuvers. The crew moved fast, but there was fear in their eyes now. They were not the hunters anymore. They were the prey. "Can we jump to hyperspace?" Alex asked. "Calculating, but their gravity field is interfering with our navigation computer. It will take 3 minutes to plot a safe jump." "We don't have 3 minutes." On the screen, lights began to turn on the dark hull. They were not bright, flashing lights. They were small, red dots, like eyes opening in the dark. They lined the sides of the ship. "They're powering up weapons," Mike said, "but the signature is strange. There is no heat, no radiation spike." "What are they?" Alex whispered. He looked at the silent giant in front of him. The Empire was proud, the Empire was strong, but today, looking at the ship that shouldn't exist, Commander Alex felt the first cold touch of panic. They had disturbed something that had been sleeping in the dark, and now it was waking up. The red lights flashed on the bridge of the Imperial Glory, washing the faces of the crew in a warning glow. Commander Alex stared at the main screen. The dark, ugly ship was turning slowly, bringing its front to face them. The silence of space felt heavy, like a physical weight pressing against the hull of the Empire's finest ship. "Report!" Alex shouted, trying to keep his voice steady. He had to be strong for his crew. He was the commander. Lieutenant Mike's fingers flew across his keyboard, but he looked scared. "The object has completed its turn, sir. It is locking on to us with something. I have never seen a sensor signature like this." "Is it a plasma beam? A missile?" Alex asked. He needed to know what weapon to prepare for. "No, sir," Mike said, his voice shaking a little. "It is not reading as a projectile. It is not reading as energy. It is gravitational. They are manipulating gravity directly." Alex felt a cold chill run down his spine. Gravity weapons were myths, stories told to scare young officers. The Empire used plasma and lasers. Gravity was too hard to control. "Launch the interceptors," Alex ordered. "Squadrons 1 through 4. Get them out there. I want that ship distracted while we charge our main engines. We need to get a lock for a hyperspace jump." "Message sent to the hangar bays," Ensign Sarah said from her station. "Pilots are scrambling." Outside the Imperial Glory, small hangar doors opened. 20 small, sleek Imperial fighters flew out. They moved fast, like swarms of angry bees. They were the Empire's best interceptors, piloted by brave men and women. They flew toward the massive dark ship, their weapons charged. Their orders were simple: fly close, fire fast, and confuse the enemy's sensors. "Come on," Alex whispered as he watched the tactical map. The interceptors moved in a wide arc, preparing to strike the giant ship from all sides. Shoot it down. Find a weakness. On the bridge of the mysterious ship, the mood was very different. It was not chaotic. It was quiet. The bridge of this ship was dark, lit only by the soft blue glow of holographic screens. Captain John sat in the center chair. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and a calm face. He wore a simple, dark uniform, not the flashy dress of the Empire. He held a cup of coffee in one hand, watching the large screen in front of him. "Report," John said. His voice was low and bored. "Tactical Officer Chris speaking, sir," a young man replied. Chris stood at a station covered in floating data windows. "The small hostiles have launched, sir. They are approaching fast. They seem to be trying to swarm us." John took a sip of his coffee. "Aggressive. Typical for the locals. Do they have a lock on us?"
"No, sir," Chris said. "Our hull is confusing their sensors. They think we are a drifting asteroid or a ghost ship. They are moving into optimal firing range." John nodded. "Let them get a little closer. I want to see what they throw at us. Keep the shields on passive mode. No need to waste energy." "Aye, sir," Chris said. He typed a command into the console. "Passive defense is active." Back on the Imperial Glory, Alex watched the interceptors close the distance. "They are in range," he said. "Tell them to open fire." In the silence of space, the 20 interceptors fired their plasma cannons. Hundreds of small, bright blue bolts shot toward the dark ship. It looked like a rain of blue fire. The bridge crew of the Imperial Glory cheered quietly. They wanted to see the enemy burn. But the bolts hit the invisible shield around the dark ship and vanished, just like before. The dark ship did not shake, it did not glow. "The shields are holding," Mike said, sounding disappointed and terrified at the same time. "The interceptors are having no effect." "They have to have a limit," Alex said, gripping the railing of his station hard. "Tell them to concentrate fire on one spot. Overload the shield." The interceptors obeyed. They turned all their guns to the front of the dark ship and fired together. A massive stream of plasma energy hit the invisible wall of the enemy ship. For a second, the space around the dark ship shimmered. The shield was holding, but it was glowing faintly under the attack. On the human ship, Captain John watched the shimmering light on his screen. "Chris," John said calmly, "that is getting annoying. Would you please silence them?" Chris smiled slightly. "With pleasure, sir. Activating localized pulse." John put his coffee down. "Remember, don't destroy them all. Just disable them. Let them go home to tell the story." "Understood, sir. Gravity pulse, setting, stun. Firing now." Outside, the battle changed instantly. The dark ship did not fire a gun. It did not fire a laser. Instead, a wave of invisible energy washed out from the ship in all directions. It moved fast, passing through space like a ripple in a pond. When the wave hit the Imperial interceptors, the small ships didn't explode. They just stopped dead. Their engines flickered and died. Their lights went out. Their systems shut down completely. The powerful gravity wave disrupted the electronics and crushed the drive cores without tearing the metal apart. One moment, the interceptors were a deadly swarm. The next moment, they were just drifting junk, floating lifelessly in the void. On the bridge of the Imperial Glory, the cheers died instantly. "Sir," Mike yelled, his voice high with panic, "Squadrons 1 through 4 are gone. I mean, the ships are still there, but they have no power. They are drifting. Everything is offline." Alex stared at the screen in disbelief. How? How did they do that with one shot? "It was a pulse, sir. A gravitational pulse. It didn't hit the hulls. It hit the space around them and shut everything down. That technology, it shouldn't exist." Alex looked at the dark ship again. It was so big. It had just disabled 20 of the Empire's best fighters without even trying hard. He felt small. "We're in trouble," Alex said quietly. "Commander," Sarah said, her voice trembling, "I am receiving a transmission from the enemy ship, audio only." "Put it on the speakers," Alex said. The bridge speakers crackled. Then a voice came through. It was deep, calm, and clear. It spoke in the Imperial language perfectly, with no accent. "This is Captain John of the Earth Defense Force vessel Titan. You have fired upon us. Your drones have been disabled. Stand down, or we will be forced to respond with more aggressive measures." Alex felt his face get hot. The arrogance of this man, calling the Empire's brave pilots drones, acting like they were the ones in danger. "This is Commander Alex of the Imperial Glory," he replied, trying to sound tough. "You are in Empire space. Your ship is illegal. You have attacked our forces. Surrender now, or we will destroy you." There was a pause on the line. Then the deep voice laughed softly. It was not a mocking laugh. It was the laugh of someone who heard a funny joke. "Surrender?" Captain John said. "Commander, look at your sensors. Do you really think you are in a position to make threats?" On the bridge of the Titan, Chris looked at Captain John. "Sir, the Imperial Glory is charging their main weapon. It is a heavy plasma cannon. It will take them 2 minutes to fire.
John nodded. "They are slow. Let them charge. It will make what happens next more dramatic." "Shall we raise the shield intensity?" Chris asked. "No," John said. "Let the shields stay low. I want them to think they have a chance. But bring the main railguns online. Target their engines. We don't want to kill everyone on board, just stop them from moving." "Aye, sir," Chris said. "Railguns are loading. Target locked." Back on the Imperial Glory, Alex was making a desperate gamble. He knew the interceptors failed. He knew the enemy had weird gravity tech, but the Imperial Glory had one of the biggest guns in the fleet. "Fire the main cannon as soon as it is ready," Alex ordered, "and charge the emergency thrusters. The moment we fire, we turn and run. We need to warn the Empire." "The main cannon will be ready in 30 seconds. But sir, the enemy ship, it is changing." Alex looked at the screen. The dark ship was changing shape. Parts of the hull were sliding back. Massive doors were opening on the sides. Huge, long barrels were extending outwards. "What are those? They look like tubes." Mike zoomed in the image. "Sir, they are solid barrels. No energy coil, no plasma vent. They look like kinetic weapons, mass drivers. But they're huge, the size of small buildings." "Mass drivers?" Alex laughed nervously. "That's ancient technology. Bullets? They're going to throw rocks at us?"
"Sir," Mike said, his face pale white, "look at the magnetic buildup in those barrels. The acceleration rate, if they fire a solid projectile at that speed, it won't matter if we have shields. The kinetic energy alone will tear us apart." "Main cannon ready," the tactical computer announced. "Fire!" Alex screamed. The Imperial Glory unleashed its power. A massive, thick beam of white-hot plasma shot from the front of the ship. It was a blinding light. It flew straight at the Titan. On the Titan, Captain John watched the beam come. "Shields up," he said casually. "Let it soak in." The plasma beam hit the invisible wall of the Titan. This time, the shield glowed bright gold. The beam pushed against the ship, rocking it slightly, but the shield held. The energy of the beam was absorbed, stored in the ship's capacitors. "Energy levels at 120%, Chris said cheerfully. "That beam just charged our secondary batteries. Thank you, Commander Alex." John stood up. He adjusted his jacket. "Now it is our turn. Fire the main battery. One salvo. Disable their engines." The massive barrels on the side of the Titan glowed with a blue magnetic light. There was no sound in space, but the vibration of the launch was visible. The ship recoiled slightly. Dozens of solid metal slugs, each the size of a car, shot out of the barrels. They moved so fast that the human eye could not track them. They were invisible blurs of distortion in the air. They crossed the distance between the ships in a fraction of a second. The Empire's point defense systems tried to lock on, but the slugs were moving too fast. They were not energy beams that could be diffused. They were pure, unstoppable mass. "Impact imminent!" Mike screamed on the bridge of the Imperial Glory. The slugs slammed into the rear of the Imperial Glory. They tore through the engine shields like paper. They smashed through the thick armor plating. They pierced the reactor cores. The sound of tearing metal was the last thing Alex heard. The Imperial Glory shuddered violently. Explosions ripped through the back of the ship. The lights went out. Emergency lighting came on, casting everything in red. The ship was dead in the water. It was drifting, just like the interceptors. "Main engines offline," Mike cried, sparks falling from his console. "Shields are failing. We have no power." On the screen, the Titan sat there, undamaged. It retracted its massive guns. "Send the message," Captain John said on the bridge of the Titan. "Let's see how they react to a conversation now." The silence that followed the destruction of the Imperial Glory's engines was louder than any explosion. Commander Alex gripped the edge of his chair, his knuckles white. The red emergency lights cast long, dancing shadows across the bridge. Smoke drifted through the air, smelling of burnt plastic and ozone. The once proud dreadnought was now just a dead piece of metal floating helplessly in the dark.
"Report," Alex said, his voice hoarse. He coughed and waved a hand in front of his face to clear the smoke. Lieutenant Mike was typing frantically on his backup console, which was running on battery power. "Main engines are destroyed, Commander. The reactor is leaking radiation, but the containment field is holding for now. We have no shields, we have no weapons. Life support is operating at 50% capacity." Ensign Sarah looked up from her station, her tears in her eyes. "Sir, I am trying to send a distress signal to the nearest Imperial outpost, but the jamming is too strong. That ship is blocking all frequencies." Alex looked at the main screen. The dark ship, the Titan, was still there. It hadn't moved. It just sat there, watching them. It felt like a predator watching a wounded animal. He felt a deep sense of shame. The Empire had taught them that they were the greatest power in the galaxy, but in less than 10 minutes, this single ship had proven them wrong. Suddenly, a new alarm beeped. It was a proximity alarm. "Sir!" Mike yelled. "More ships are coming out of hyperspace!" Alex's heart jumped. "Reinforcements? The fleet has arrived!" He looked at the tactical display, hope rising in his chest, but then his face fell. The symbols appearing on the screen were not Imperial blue, they were bright green. "No," Alex whispered. "More of them." One by one, 5 more ships dropped out of hyperspace. They were not as big as the Titan, but they were still massive. They were the same ugly, blocky design. They were dark gray and heavily armored. They moved into formation around the Titan, like a pack of wolves surrounding their leader. "Who are these people?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "Where did they come from?" "We are picking up transmissions between them. I am trying to decode their language," Mike said. "Let me guess," Alex said bitterly. "It is the same language Captain John spoke earlier." "Yes, sir," Mike confirmed. "It is English. They are identifying themselves as the Earth Expeditionary Force." On the bridge of the Titan, Captain John watched the new arrivals on his screen. A small smile played on his lips. "Sir," Tactical Officer Chris said, "the 7th and 8th fleets have arrived. They are in position. Also, Command has sent a new order." John stood up and walked over to Chris's station. "What is the order?" "We are to test the new weapons systems. High Command wants to know how our latest technology performs against Imperial shields in a real combat scenario. They authorize a full-scale assault on the reinforcements arriving from the Empire's side." "Reinforcements?" John raised an eyebrow. "The Empire is sending more ships to die?" "Affirmative, sir. Long-range sensors detect a hyperspace signature. A large Imperial battle group is about to arrive." John nodded. He walked back to his chair and sat down. "Very well. Let us give them a warm welcome. Link all ships to my command. We will fight as one unit." "Link established, sir." Suddenly, the space behind the Imperial glory twisted and tore. The massive shape of an Imperial starbase carrier, along with 10 heavy cruisers, appeared. They had come to rescue the Imperial glory. They saw the drifting dreadnought and immediately assumed the enemy had used some kind of stasis field.
"Admiral on deck," the captain of the carrier shouted over the radio. "All ships, target the hostile alien vessel. Fire at will." The 10 cruisers turned their guns toward the Earth fleet. They began charging their plasma banks, preparing to unleash a storm of fire. Alex watched from his disabled bridge. "No," he muttered. "Don't do it. You don't understand what you are facing." "Sir, the cruisers are firing," Mike said. "They're going to hit the Titan and the other ships." The sky filled with plasma bolts. It was a beautiful, deadly display of power. The Empire was throwing everything they had at the newcomers. On the Titan, Captain John watched the plasma rain down. "Are the new shields active?" he asked calmly. "Yes, sir," Chris replied. "The MK4 absorption matrix is online. We are ready to feed." "Then let 'em shoot," John said. "Lock on to the lead cruiser. Prepare the gravimetric torpedoes." The plasma bolts slammed into the shields of the Earth fleet. But instead of exploding, the shields rippled and glowed. They drank the energy. The more the Empire fired, the brighter the shields became.
It looked like the Earth ships were charging up like batteries. "Sir," Chris said, looking at his readings, "energy levels are at 200%, 300%. The shields are getting stronger with every shot." "They're powering us up," John said with a chuckle. "Admiral, you have no idea who you are messing with. Fire torpedoes 1 through 6, target their engines." 6 glowing missiles shot out from the Titan. They did not fly in a straight line. They disappeared and reappeared, jumping short distances through space. They were warp torpedoes. They bypassed the Empire's point defenses entirely. The torpedoes slammed into the engines of the lead Imperial cruiser. The explosions were not big and fiery. They were implosions. The warp drive bubbles collapsed, crushing the engine rooms into tiny balls of matter. The cruiser vanished. It didn't explode. It was just crushed out of existence. Then the shockwave hit the other cruisers. "My God," Mike whispered on the bridge of the Imperial Glory. "Did you see that? That cruiser had just crumpled." Alex couldn't speak. The power difference was terrifying. The Earth ships were playing with them. The Earth fleet didn't stop there. The 5 smaller ships, which were actually destroyers, opened fire with a new weapon, railguns. They fired thousands of smaller metal slugs every second. It was a storm of metal. The slugs ripped through the hulls of the Imperial cruisers. The Empire's shields, designed to stop energy beams, were useless against the solid metal. The cruisers tried to turn, to run, but they were too slow. One by one, their systems failed. Their engines were destroyed. Their bridge towers were smashed. Inside the bridge of the Titan, the atmosphere was relaxed. Crew members were drinking coffee, talking quietly, and doing their jobs. "Target the carrier," Captain John ordered, "the one with the Admiral. Locked on, firing main railgun." A single massive metal spike, the size of a telephone pole, accelerated to near light speed. It shot out from the Titan's bow. The spike hit the Imperial carrier in the center. It went straight through the ship, entering the front and exiting the back. The heat generated by the friction turned the air inside the ship into fire. The ship snapped in half. "The enemy formation is breaking, sir," Chris reported. "They're trying to jump to hyperspace, but our jamming is stopping them." "Let a few go," said John. "We need someone to carry the message." On the Imperial Glory, Alex watched the massacre. 10 of the Empire's finest ships were destroyed or disabled in less than 5 minutes. The Titan hadn't even taken a scratch. "Sir," Sarah said softly, "I am receiving a direct transmission from the Titan. It is for you specifically." Alex swallowed hard. He felt sick. "Put it through." The face of Captain John appeared on the screen. He looked calm, professional, and utterly unthreatening. "Commander Alex, I see your friends have arrived, and they have failed. I assume you are watching this." "Who are you?" Alex managed to say. "Why are you doing this?" "We are humanity. We are from Earth, and we are doing this because you attacked us. But mostly, we are doing this to show you that the galaxy is not yours. You have lived in your safe little empire for too long. You thought you were the apex predators." John paused, looking off screen for a moment as someone handed him a data pad. He looked back at Alex. "We have been watching you, Commander. We have studied your technology. We built these ships specifically to counter your shields and your weapons. This ship, the Titan, is just a patrol boat in our fleet. It is an exploration vessel." Alex stared. "A patrol boat? You're lying. It destroyed a carrier." "I am not lying. If we had brought a battleship, Commander, there would be nothing left of this star system but dust." John leaned closer to the camera. His eyes were hard. "Here is what is going to happen. We are going to spare you and your crew. We are going to let the remaining Imperial ships run away. But we are taking this sector. It belongs to us now. If the Empire sends another fleet, we will not be so merciful. Do you understand?" Alex looked around his ruined bridge. He looked at his terrified crew. He knew he had no choice. I understand," he said. "Good," John said.
I suggest you fix your engines and leave. We are done here." The screen went black. On the Titan, Chris looked at his captain. "Sir, we have received a transmission from High Command. They are pleased with the data. The weapon systems performed perfectly. They are authorizing the construction of the Dreadnought class." John nodded. "Good. It was about time. Prep the ship for jump. We're heading back to base. I need a steak dinner." "Aye, sir," with a smile.
The Earth fleet began to turn. Their engines glowed with a blue light that was different from Imperial hyperspace. They turned and disappeared in a flash of speed, leaving the burning wreckage of the Imperial fleet behind them. Commander Alex sat in his chair, staring at the empty stars. He knew the panic that would hit the Empire when he told his story. The galaxy had changed. The humans were here, and ships like theirs shouldn't exist, but they did, and they were coming. The bridge of the Titan was quiet again, but it was a busy kind of quiet. Crew members moved between stations, checking data and drinking hot drinks. The battle was over for them. It had been nothing more than a successful test of their equipment. Captain John sat in his chair, looking at the large screen that showed the fleeing Imperial ships. He felt no anger, only a cold satisfaction. He had done his job. He had shown the Empire that humanity was not to be trifled with. "Sir," Tactical Officer Chris said from his station, "we are tracking the remaining Imperial cruisers. They are running towards the inner colonies. They are scared." "Let them run," John said, taking a sip of water. "Fear is a better weapon than any gun." The ship vibrated gently as the engines powered up. The Titan was about to leave, just as John had promised Commander Alex. But before they could jump, the proximity alarm beeped again. It was a different sound this time, louder and more urgent. Chris frowned and tapped his console. "Sir, I am reading a massive hyperspace signature. It is huge, much bigger than the carrier we just destroyed." John put his drink down. "How huge?" "Scale is difficult," Chris said, sounding confused for the first time. "It is the size of a small moon. It is coming in right on top of us." "Brace for impact," John ordered calmly. "Shields to maximum." Space tore open again, but this time the ship that came out was not a normal cruiser. It was the Empire's Wrath, the personal flagship of the Imperial Grand Admiral. It was a super dreadnought, the largest ship the Empire had ever built. It was covered in gold and white paint, with thousands of guns pointing in every direction. It was a floating city, a symbol of the Empire's total power. Behind the Empire's Wrath came two more battleships, each twice the size of the Titan. The net was closing. The Empire had not sent a patrol. They had sent a fleet designed to destroy worlds. On the bridge of the Empire's Wrath, Grand Admiral Marcus stood on a high balcony. He was an old man with a cold face and medals covering his chest. He looked down at his crew like a king looking at servants. "Target the Earth ship," Marcus ordered. "Do not hesitate. Do not try to talk. Destroy it." "Admiral," a sensor officer said, "Sir, that ship is the one that destroyed the 7th Fleet. Our sensors show it has massive gravity shields." Marcus laughed. "That ship is a primitive toy. The 7th Fleet was incompetent. We have the Empire's Wrath. We have enough firepower to vaporize that rock. Fire the main superlaser." On the Titan, the atmosphere changed. The crew stopped smiling. "Sir," Chris said, his voice tight, "that ship is a monster. The energy readings from their main gun are astronomical. If that hits us, even our gravity shields won't hold." John looked at the screen. The giant ship was charging a massive green laser in the center of its hull. It was so bright it hurt to look at. The Empire was throwing a hammer at a fly. They were scared. "Chris," John said, "stop running. Bring the ship around. Face them." "Aye, sir," Chris replied. "But, sir, we are just a patrol boat. We can't win a slugging match with a super dreadnought."
"We don't need to slug it out," John said sharply. "We need to show them what primitive really means. Unlock the safeties on the forward railgun battery. Target their flagship. Use the penetrator rounds." "The experimental rounds?" Chris asked, his eyes wide. "Sir, those are unstable, and using them inside a solar system might cause gravity tides." "We are already in a fight, Chris," John said sharply. "Do it." The Titan turned slowly, bringing its nose to face the massive Empire's wrath. It looked like a mouse standing up to a lion. On the Empire's wrath, Marcus watched the tiny ship turn. "They want to die," he sneered. "Fire!" The green laser shot out from the giant ship. It was a beam of pure destruction, wide enough to swallow a city. It crossed the distance in seconds. The Titan's shields flared up, turning a bright violet. The beam pushed against the ship, shaking it violently. Sparks flew on the bridge of the Titan. Lights flickered and shattered. "Shields holding at 60%, Chris yelled, holding on to his console. "Sir, we can't take another hit like that." John held on to his chair, his face calm despite the shaking. "We won't have to. Fire!" The Titan fired. It didn't fire a single shot. It fired a spread of 12 large metal slugs. But these were not normal slugs. They were spinning drills, made of a super-dense metal found only in the deep core of planets. They were wrapped in a gravity field that made them weigh as much as a star. The slugs flew towards the Empire's wrath. The giant ship's point defense guns fired thousands of lasers at the slugs, trying to melt them. But the gravity field around the slugs bent the lasers away. The slugs hit the shields of the Empire's wrath and punched through them like a needle through cloth. Then they hit the hull. There was no explosion. There was just a terrible crushing sound, heard only through the vibrations of the metal. The 12 slugs smashed into the thick armor of the flagship. They didn't stop. They drilled through the outer layers, through the inner decks, through the reactor rooms, and out the other side.
The slugs kept going, flying off into deep space, leaving 12 clean, perfect holes in the biggest ship the Empire had ever built. On the bridge of the Empire's wrath, alarms screamed. The floor beneath Marcus tilted. He fell to his knees. "Report!" he roared, getting back up. We have hull breaches," the helmsman said, terror in his voice. "The slugs went right through us. They cut the main power line. The engines are dead. The super laser is offline. We are drifting." "Impossible!" Marcus yelled. "It's just metal. How can metal do that?" Back on the Titan, the crew cheered as the green laser from the enemy ship died. "Direct hit, sir," Chris laughed. "Their ship is dead in the water. We cut their spine." John stood up and straightened his uniform. "Target the other 2 battleships. Let them see what happened to their boss." The 2 battleships saw the Empire's raft drifting with smoking holes in its side. They saw the green laser fade. They looked at the small, dark ship that was now turning its guns toward them. The captains of those ships were not stupid. They were brave, but they were not suicidal. "This is Captain Miller of the Iron Will," a voice came over the radio. We are breaking off. Retreat! All ships, retreat!" The 2 battleships turned and ran as fast as their engines could carry them. They left the Empire's wrath behind. "Shall we chase them, sir?" Chris asked. "No," John said. "We have made our point. Let them go." He opened a channel to the drifting flagship. "Grand Admiral Marcus," John said, "your ship is broken. Your fleet is running. You have 3 choices. You can stay there and drift until your air runs out. You can surrender to us, or you can call for tugs and drag your broken toy home. But know this, the next time you come to our border, we will not aim for the hull, we will aim for the bridge. Stay away from Earth." Marcus listened to the voice on the bridge of his dying ship. He looked at the holes in his floor. He looked at his terrified crew. For the first time in his life, he felt real fear. He was not facing a rebellion. He was facing a force of nature. "Who are you?" Marcus whispered into the comms. "We are humanity, and we are done hiding." The screen went dark.
On the Titan, John looked at his crew. "Nice work, everyone. Now let's go home before they decide to throw something else at us." The Titan turned away from the battlefield. The ship accelerated, jumping into hyperspace, leaving the Empire to deal with the shock of what had happened. In the Imperial capital, millions of light years away, the panic had already begun. News stations were broadcasting the terrifying footage of the battle. The people saw the invincible Empire's wrath being defeated by a single dark ship. They saw the holes in the hull. They saw the power of the railguns. The High Council met in an emergency session. They argued, they shouted, they blamed each other. But in the end, they all agreed on one thing. The Empire was not alone anymore, and the new neighbors were much stronger than they had ever imagined. Commander Alex, floating in his damaged Imperial glory, watched the Titan disappear. He let out a long breath he didn't know he was holding. "We are alive," Mike said softly. "Yes," Alex said, "but the world is different now. Nothing will ever be the same." He looked at the stars. He knew that the stories of Earth were not just stories anymore. They were a warning, and the Empire had just learned the hard way that ships like the Titan shouldn't exist, but they did, and there were probably more of them. The silence of space returned to the border region, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was a heavy, shocked silence. The wreckage of the Imperial fleet floated among the stars like a graveyard of metal and burning wires. The Empire's wrath, the mighty flagship, was now just a drifting hulk with 12 massive holes drilled through its body. The Imperial glory sat nearby, its engines dead and its lights flickering, looking small and broken compared to the devastation. Inside the Imperial glory, the air was thick and hot. The emergency generators hummed loudly, struggling to keep the life support systems running. Commander Alex sat in his chair, staring at the main screen. The screen was now just a static star field. The Titan was gone. The Earth ship had vanished into hyperspace as quickly as it had arrived. "They're gone, sir," Lieutenant Mike said quietly. He sounded tired. His voice was hoarse from shouting orders during the battle. "The sensors show no trace of them. They just disappeared." Alex nodded slowly. He felt numb. He had expected to die today. He had prepared his crew for death, but the enemy had spared them. "Are the escape pods from the other ships safe?" "Yes, sir," Ensign Sarah said from her station. She was wiping her face with a cloth. "We are tracking them. The Earth ship didn't shoot any escape pods. They let them go." "They let us go," Alex repeated. It did not make sense to him. In the Empire, battles ended in total destruction. The winner killed everyone. But these humans, they fought with terrifying power, but they stopped before killing everyone. It was confusing. Just then, a light flashed on the communication console. It was a text message. It was broadcast on an open frequency so that every surviving Imperial ship could read it. "Put it on the screen," Alex ordered. The message was simple. It was written in the Empire's language, but the style was very direct. "This is a message from the Earth Defense Force. We have destroyed your fleet to show you our strength. We did not kill your crews because we are not monsters, but listen carefully. The Sol system and the space around it now belongs to us. If any Empire ship enters our territory, we will destroy it without warning. Do not test us again. Stay away." There was no signature, no threats of torture, just the cold, hard truth. "Send this message to High Command immediately," Alex said, his voice becoming stronger. "Tell them everything. Tell them about the gravity shields. Tell them about the railguns. Tell them that the Titan was just a patrol boat." Mike looked up. "Sir, do you think that is true? Was it really just a patrol boat?" Alex looked at the image of the Titan that he had saved on his datapad. It was blocky, dark, and ugly, but he remembered the ease with which it destroyed them. "Yes," Alex said, "I believe them. If that was a battleship, they would have destroyed the entire star system, not just our ships." The Empire had been at war for thousands of years. It had fought many different enemies, but they had always been enemies they understood. enemies who used the same technology, enemies who fought with the same rules. But humans were different. They fought with technology that the Empire had never seen before. They fought with no mercy, but only against military targets. Inside the Imperial glory, Alex knew that this battle was not just a defeat, it was the beginning of the end. Maybe this was the kind of empire that hadn't existed yet.
Hundreds of light years away, in the center of the galaxy, the imperial capital was in chaos. The massive spires of the city usually shone with bright lights, but tonight the mood was dark. The news channels were playing the footage of the battle on a loop. The Empire's citizens watched in horror as their unbeatable fleet was torn apart by unseen forces and metal slugs. Inside the Grand Palace, the High Council sat around a large table. The room was usually filled with arrogant laughter and talk of expansion. Today, it was silent. Advisors and generals stood against the walls, looking at their feet. At the head of the table sat the Emperor. He was an old man, wearing robes of gold silk. He looked at the report on his table. It was a simple damage assessment. It said, "Total loss." "How is this possible?" the Emperor asked. His voice was quiet, which made it scarier. "We have dominated this galaxy for 1,000 years. We have never faced a threat like this." "Your Majesty," a general said, stepping forward. He looked nervous. "The ship we faced, it defies our understanding of physics. It used gravity as a weapon. It used solid metal projectiles moving at impossible speeds. Our shields are designed to stop energy, not mass. We were unprepared." "Where did they come from?" the Emperor demanded. "Who are these humans?" "They call themselves Terrans, from Earth. Our maps show their system is on the outer rim, in a sector we ignored because it was resource poor. We thought they were a primitive, pre-warp civilization." The Emperor slammed his hand on the table. "You ignored them, and now they have a ship that can kill my dreadnoughts?" "Your Majesty," another advisor spoke up, "the analysis of the data shows something even more worrying. The computer analysis of the Titan's power signature suggests that its reactor was running at only 40% capacity during the battle." The room went dead silent. 40%? the Emperor whispered. "You mean they were not even trying?" "It appears so, Your Majesty," the advisor said. "And if the report from their commander is true, if the Titan was just a patrol boat, then their true warships must be, gods help us, Titans." The Emperor leaned back in his chair. He looked old and tired for the first time in years. The realization hit him and everyone in the room. The Empire was no longer the apex predator. They were just another animal in the jungle, and they had just woken up a sleeping lion. "Cancel all operations near the Sol system," the Emperor ordered. "Pull back our fleets. I want a buffer zone of 50 light years. No one goes near Earth." "And our ships we lost?" a general asked. "Leave them," the Emperor said. "Do not go back to retrieve them. If the humans are watching, we do not want to provoke them further." Meanwhile, in the Sol system, the home of humanity, the mood was very different. The Sol system was not the poor, backward sector the Empire thought it was. It was a fortress. Orbiting the blue planet Earth were thousands of ships. They were hidden behind massive sensor distortion fields. There were shipyards the size of moons, cranking out more of the dark, blocky vessels. There were cargo ships bringing raw materials from the asteroid belt, feeding the massive war machine. Deep inside the largest military base on the planet's surface, Captain John walked down a long hallway. He had returned from the mission just an hour ago. He had debriefed his commander and was now heading to the cafeteria. He was hungry. The doors to the officers' mess hall slid open. It was a large room filled with round tables. Officers sat eating, talking, and laughing. There was no panic here. There was no fear. John got a tray of food,
a steak, potatoes, and a green salad, and sat down at a table with Chris. Chris was already eating a large slice of pizza. "Good job out there, Captain," Chris said with his mouth full. "The data looks great. The High Command is happy." "Did we lose anyone?" John asked, cutting his steak. "No," Chris shook his head. "Not a single scratch. The shields held up perfectly. The Empire's weapons are pathetic." John nodded. "They learned a valuable lesson today. Hopefully they will stay away." "Do you think they will?" Chris asked. "They seem arrogant." "They are arrogant," John said, "but they're not stupid. They saw what the railguns did to their flagship. They know they can't win a straight fight." John looked around the room. He saw young officers, engineers, and pilots. These were the people who protected Earth. For a long time, humanity had been the underdog. They had been attacked by aliens, hunted, and almost destroyed. But they had adapted. They had learned. They had built technology that was different from the rest of the galaxy. While the Empire focused on pretty lasers and shiny shields, humanity focused on raw power, thick armor, and big guns. "We have the Dreadnought class almost ready, don't we?" John asked. Chris smiled widely. "Oh yes, the Hercules launches next month. It makes the Titan look like a toy. It has railguns that can crack a planet's crust." "Good," John said. "Hopefully we never have to use it, but it's nice to know it's there." Back in the Empire's territory, Commander Alex was finally able to breathe. A rescue ship had arrived to tow the Imperial Glory back to a space station for repairs. As he watched the damaged hull of his ship being pulled by cables, he thought about the future. The Empire was panicking. The people were scared. The military was confused. The balance of power had changed in a single day. The myth of Empire invincibility was broken. Alex looked out the window at the stars. He knew that somewhere out there in the dark, the humans were watching. They were building. They were waiting. The Empire had ruled for a long time, but that era was over. Ships like the Titan shouldn't exist, according to all the laws of physics and warfare the Empire knew. But they did exist, and because they existed, the universe was a much more dangerous place. But as Alex looked at the stars, he realized that maybe danger wasn't a bad thing. Maybe it would make the Empire less arrogant. Maybe it would force them to be better. But for now, the only thing that mattered was survival. The Empire had been warned. They had been given a second chance. And as the Imperial Glory was slowly dragged towards home, Alex made a silent promise to himself. If he ever met another human ship, he would not fire. He would run, and he would tell everyone he knew to do the same. The story of the Empire and the Earth was just beginning, but the first chapter had been written in fire and metal, and the title of that chapter was simple: Fear.